Noble Lord Jay has made some very sensible points on behalf of his committee to improve scrutiny of EU legislation applying to Northern Ireland and the democratic deficit. But I think all of that addresses the symptoms and not the problem. And of course, I would ask, what is the point of all this scrutiny? We could sit for hours and hours scrutinising everything that the EU wants to do to Northern Ireland if we can't actually say no, if we can't actually change it. And like millions of people who voted leave, many of us voted to actually get rid of the EU telling us things that we had to do and we couldn't get out of because of majority voting. So I would say that all of this is not going to be solved in any way, no matter how good some of the points are on scrutiny, unless we don't need the scrutiny. We shouldn't need the scrutiny because we shouldn't have the protocol. And the truth, of course, is that the government should never have signed up to a protocol. I know it's an international treaty, but it came after another international treaty, the Belfast Good Friday Agreement. And now, without doubt, the protocol is destroying that agreement, the hugely important principles of cross-community consent and, of course, the democratic deficit. And I just wonder how long we here in this House and in this country can allow a treaty to continue when it is working absolutely against the unity of its own country, where the courts have actually said it is subjugating the Act of Union, and when it has brought down devolved government. Now, the government may talk about taking back control, but even last week they produced a statutory instrument to introduce the Official Controls Northern Ireland Regulations 2023, which gives powers to UK government ministers to implement and supplement the protocol by building structures at the ports in Northern Ireland for customs and other checks. If Northern Ireland officials do not apply these laws, then a foreign court will impose sanctions on the UK. And yet Article 64 of OCR 2017, the regulation they're seeking to give effect to, requires border control posts at the entry into the EU. By building these posts in Northern Ireland, the government are accepting the principle that Northern Ireland is part of the customs territory of the European Union. And I know that pre-action legal proceedings have now been lodged, which will force the government to finally take an honest position. Is Northern Ireland part of the UK customs union, as it boldly proclaims in Article 4 of the protocol, or is it part of the EU, as per the statutory instrument which treats Northern Ireland as part of the EU? I'm sorry to say the government is speaking in a kind of double-speak. It's as if they want to conceal their true intent and kid people in Northern Ireland they're actually going to really sort the protocol when they have no intention to do so. I would refer Noble Lords to the recent publication of an excellent report from the Centre for the Union, written by Ethan Thorburn, Jamie Bryson and James Bogle. It gives very clear views on how we can restore Northern Ireland's place in the Union, and it is a paper analysing the impact of the protocol on Northern Ireland's constitutional status. I just would want to add, because many Noble Lords have talked about the Assembly coming back, really the government has to accept and realise and understand that until Northern Ireland is fully back in an integrally part of the United Kingdom, the Northern Ireland devolution will not happen. The Northern Ireland Assembly will not come back, and that needs radical change to the protocol, not the tinkering. And if only the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland would actually spend more time, rather than denigrating those parties who are sticking to their mandate of saying they would not go back into devolution until the protocol was sorted, if he spent more time trying to convince ministers, particularly in the Foreign Office, that the protocol has to go, that it has to be a restoration of Northern Ireland to its rightful place within the UK. It's only when that happens, I would say to the Noble Lord the Minister, that we will get devolution back.